afternoon and welcome to today's Sunset Safari. My name's Brent Leo Smith. I have Tebs on camera, Jamie and Andrew, Joseph, Francis on the other vehicle, and we have Kirsten and Nicola in final control. So welcome to a sweltering low-felt day. It's about 31 degrees Celsius, 88 Fahrenheit. So unfortunately, we didn't manage to find any cats on the Sunrise Safari, but the leopard tracks didn't leave. So I'm doing another scout around the area to see if we can find the leopard tracks. And a little bit later, we have another new presenter trying out, and he's going to jump up on the back of our vehicle and come on with us a little bit later on the drive. His name is Neil Bone, and we've known each other for quite some time. I've actually known him since my first year at boarding school. Neil was a few years above me, so I've known him for a very long time. He's been in the bush a very long time as well, so very exciting having all these new presenters trying out. I'm sure you guys will be nice to him, just as you were to Brett this morning. So just in case that leopard, oh there we go, having a drink in the road, is the first sighting of the Sunset Safari. And look at that, for the birders out there, it's a nice little Aquila eagle. Now I know we've been focusing quite a bit on our bird lists, and I've started a live drive bird list, and I haven't got this one on the live drives yet, and I'm also not going to make it too easy for you guys. Let's see if you can figure out which eagle this is. And remember, you are able to send us an email, so email me the answers on questions@WildEarthTV, or if you're a little bit more technologically savvy, just whack the hashtag in front of Safari Live and pop it on Twitter. Oh, off it goes. So there we go, and you can see as it took off there, feathers all the way down its legs, and that's what let us know it's one of the true eagles or Aquila eagles. Very, very pretty bird. Surprised we didn't hear any squirrels break out in panic as it took off.
Afternoon station, mobile, any update?
Sorry guys, let me just get on the radio here. Afternoon, nothing yet. We've just got mobile. We did have a Nkonzo of Wanuna Ingwe on Beta this morning. No sign of it crossing out, so we're following up in the area. It was seen on that Djuma dam cam last night, so I think Jamie's checking the Mawati and that area, see if she gets any luck with some tracks.
Hi, Bobby. Thanks, Brent. I'm going to pick up past the 7-1.
Copy, thanks. So, if there are any new viewers out there, you see I'm on the radio, and you've got to remember that finding animals is a team game. The more of us out there looking, the better chance we all have of showing you guys the most fantastic stuff. So we are always in contact, and that helps us keep a sort of ear to the ground on the movement of animals. Welcome Sarah on the Sunset Safari. Sarah's a bit worried, said, why are we trying out new guides? Are any of the guides leaving? Don't worry Sarah, none of us are leaving. We are getting some additional guides, that's all. And oh, where did it go? It seems like I'm having luck with this particular bird species. We had a fantastic view of one this morning as well. Oopsie, sorry Tebsy, that was my fault there. Oh, there we go, we got two different species there. So the top one, even though it's difficult to see in the shade, is that violet-backed starling or plum-colored starling, and you can see how it's opening its mouth like that, and if you look carefully underneath the beak, it almost looks like it's fluttering, and what that is called is a gula flutter, and that is to try help cool them down. It's one of the cooling mechanisms birds use. And then below is a red-billed buffalo weaver. He's also in the deep shade, also probably hiding from the sun and doing a bit of preening. So red-billed buffalo weaver is a new one for my live drive list. And then we had the violet-backed starling this morning. Fortunately sitting in the shade, so we can't see that wonderful iridescence. Now it's been very interesting. We've noticed that while we've been so dry, a lot of the sort of migratory birds like woodlands kingfishers, carmine bee-eaters, pygmy kingfishers, violet-back starlings, what else? Paradise flycatchers haven't been that much abound, but I've noticed definitely this morning, and European rollers, European bee-eaters. As soon as we've had that rain, there's definitely been an increase in woodlands kingfishers and some of the other migratory birds, so we will be keeping an eye out for them as well. So we had that mystery bird this morning, which proved to be quite a challenging little lark, and I'm pretty confident now that we can mark it down as a melodious lark, as one of the only lark mimics that's about. So here we go, nice one. An LBJ for the serious twitchers out there. Some of our viewers have bird lists of over 200 from the live drives. Isn't that incredible? Now this is a very strange thing that's happened this Sunset Safari. I've gone past the Gallagher waterhole and I'm coming around towards the Djuma dam camp, and I have not seen one buffalo bull. And they have been sort of camping out in these areas, and although it seems quite strange, it's not really. That little bit of rain would have filled in a lot of the pans, so you'll find those buffalo are going to be wallowing up in a bit of mud that is not the exact same one that they stay in, so there might be a little bit more grass around some of the other pans that have now got a bit of water in. And as you can see, that water did not touch the dry desert-like basin, which is now the Vuyatela Dam. Well done to Marilyn in Montana and Donna in North Carolina, who were spot on with that bird. It was a pale morph Warburg's eagle. Well done, guys. And while we continue to check around this area for the possibility of leopard tracks, let's go see if Jamie has had any, or has had better luck than we have so far.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on board Jigger for this part of the Sunset Safari. For those of you who are new to our show, a big warm welcome. My name is Jamie. I have Andrew on camera with me this afternoon, and while Brent goes to check around the Djuma Dam, I've come along to check the drainage lines surrounding it. So I haven't seen any tracks crossing north into that famous block between Mbubu and Gari cut line. It's a very thick, very dense block. So I'm wondering whether or not that leopard decided to go down into the drainage, into the Milwaukee drainage line. Apparently there's something very rattly making a noise in our car. Andrew, do you hear it? That's very strange. I can't hear anything unusually rattly on Jigger. Is there something flapping? I don't think so. That's very peculiar. Well, we apologise for whatever strange noise is coming through to the microphone, and this is the microphone itself. Maybe knocking. Doesn't look like it. Might have come loose a little bit. There we go, try and adjust it a bit. Okay, so we might have found the problem, which should explain why we couldn't hear it, because the microphone is just ever so slightly knocking onto the dashboard. It's alright. We will sort nothing that cable ties and duct tapes won't be able to remedy at some point. I hear that Brent's been doing bird quizzes this afternoon. I think in return I might look for some tricky tracks to try and catch you out. It's difficult to catch you all out. I'm not sure if I've ever managed it. Well, our new viewers, for your, or to help you understand what I mean, we very often challenge viewers to different quizzes and games. And almost every every time. In fact, I can't think of one example where I haven't got at least one correct answer. Our regular viewers are on the ball. In terms of my possible track quiz, Michael Fleetwood, you were wondering how long it takes you to memorize the individual animals' tracks. Are you talking about different species, or are you talking about individuals themselves? Because we have chatted before about figuring out which animals they are from the tracks itself. With individual species, or with different species, it comes fairly quickly for the easy ones like elephant or rhino or hippo. Those ones you can see pretty quickly. And I would say it only really takes you a week or two of looking at them. It's sometimes difficult to spot them, of course, and that just comes with practice. I guess it's not really so much recognizing them. The idea is to be able to recognize them fast, so that you don't have to stop for too long and double check and triple check what you're looking at. So with hyenas, for example, you don't want to stop for every single hyena track you see on the road. So you get used to the way that they walk and the shape of their tracks very quickly, so that you can dismiss them quickly. If you're looking, for example, for, as we are this afternoon, if you're looking for leopard tracks or even lion tracks, depending on whether or not one of them decided to come over onto Djuma. In terms of individual animals, which is something that I touched on, it is possible to identify them. And I've actually chatted a lot to Steph about this. He knows some expert trackers that actually walk around with, essentially with calipers, to measure the tracks. And they say that they can, with almost, I don't know, about 8 out of 10 times guess the identity of the animal. But for that sort of thing, you're talking about leopards or lions, something that's area specific, so something that has a territory, and you can just narrow down who it's likely to be. Now for us, the only female tracks that come onto Djuma that we're likely to get confused with would either be Karula or Shadow. Shadow's feet, from what I've observed, are much tinier than Karula's. That's just come from a couple of months of observation. But I wouldn't say that I'm confident to any kind of degree of accuracy. Not confident enough to say that's definitely Karula's track, or that's definitely not Karula's track. Rhino tracks, I've been able to identify individuals from. That's because I spent months and months and months tracking those particular individuals. When you look at the track itself, you can usually identify little features, a chip in a toe maybe, a slight, so many helmet strikes riding through. They're such fast little birds. They don't seem to want to settle down. I'd love to be able to show you them, beautiful birds. They're not playing, they're being a bit uncooperative. Wondering what my favorite bird is in Africa. Right now it's not these helmet shrikes, because they're being thoroughly uncooperative. They're hiding in this knobthorn somewhere. I can hear them. Let me just switch off so you can hear them as well. Oh, and now they've gone quiet too. Cheeky birds. And what I'm going to do while we look there is I'm going to find you a picture of my favorite bird to show you for Joseph and for all the others. It is a difficult one though, and it does depend a little bit on my mood. But I would say probably one of my absolute favorites is the Verreaux's, or the black eagle. Unfortunately, not one that we're likely to see here. You managed to find them there? No.
Yeah, I did.
Where did you get them? Oh yes, there we go. Well done, Andrew. Andrew's the hero of the day for managing to find one very tiny black and white bird in one very dense tree. It's gone. Cheeky things. So helmet shrike's not on the top of my favorites list right now, but this is one of my favorite birds. It's the most magnificent eagle. It's just a little bit smaller, than a martial eagle, which we do see here occasionally, with a beautiful white V along its back. You see them in the mountains. They are, to me, one of the most awe-inspiring birds of prey. Just so beautiful. And I think there's something so striking about seeing a purely black or almost completely black eagle. One of my other top birds is a secretary bird. I love secretary birds. I think they're extraordinary, and you never know. We could well see one on these live safaris, particularly around that Arathusa airstrip area. They are unique and well-adapted snake hunters, raptors with long, long legs like a stork. My other favorite bird species be. What's your favorite, Andrew? Do you have one?
I like ostriches.
Okay, Andrew likes ostriches. That's fair enough. Also, a bird species that we could see out here. The largest bird in the entire world. I didn't even think about an ostrich. That's a good answer. I don't like ostriches because they bring back memories of being terrified of them as a kid. I don't dislike them, but I think I was slightly traumatized by being chased by one. So was my little brother, actually, as well. I watched one take a piece of bread out of his hand. He was holding it like this. He was tiny, tiny. He was still a toddler. And I don't think he ever quite recovered from that. That and the warthog attack, where he was thrown unceremoniously into the air and onto his bottom by a warthog. No harm done at all. It was actually a baby warthog as well. And that spelled the end of any potential of Angus having a career in the bush. He is now, for those of you interested, living in Scotland. And no immediate plans to come rushing to work out here. Birds. Oh, we were talking about ostriches. Largest flying or largest bird in the world. Obviously flightless as well. And chatting about all the various birds of prey, we want to know if there are Djuma genes in the area and if that is the same thing as a harrier hawk. And yes, it is exactly the same thing as a harrier hawk. And we do get them. There's in fact one that has been nesting on Vulture's Nest Road. Sometimes our birds like to confuse us with road names and where they decide to put themselves. He nests there. It's very skittish, that particular Djuma gene. So I personally haven't managed to get it sitting on the nest. So we'll go nice and slowly through here. Make sure that this male leopard didn't come a-wandering. Here, kitty, kitty. Oh, probably shouldn't call him that, he might take offense. And Rich, my plan is to go across to Vulture's Nest in a little bit, if I don't pick up any tracks here. So I'll have a look for you, and maybe we could see a Djuma gene today. A Djuma gene, or an African harrier hawk, is a bird that's specialized in raiding other birds' nests. So not a popular bird out here. And very often, if one is even considered to be a slight threat or is just sitting in a tree, the fork-tailed drongos of the world, as well as the hornbills and the rollers, tend to attack and mob them. Still no tracks coming through here. Let's just go pop our noses into the drainage line under the Jackleberry. See if maybe there's signs of tracks there, or even the leopard itself, of course. To the last few days, it is very hot, and I think most things are hiding away in the shade. So while I go and check here, let's get an update from Brent's side.
So we've done a big circle around the Djuma Dam. No luck, no tracks. I've got a sneaky suspicion that leopard might have ducked into the little river system that runs through the center of Djuma, the Mawati. And Jamie is definitely going to have a look there. She's in Jigger, which gets better signal, so is able to go into those deep drainage lines. So we're going to have a quick check around quarantine, and then I'm going to head up towards the western sectors to try to find some elephants. So Darlene, welcome. Darlene is from New Hampshire. Darlene would like to know, will we ever get to see an impala lily, and why is it named that? Well, Darlene, they do occur naturally in the Sabi Sands, but generally on rocky ground. We don't have many rocks here at Djuma, as you can see, quite sandy soils. So it's unlikely we're going to see one on the drives. Jamie and I actually have a big one in a pot on our deck, and that we brought from Hoedspruit. So there is one there, and when it flowers, maybe I'll lift that heavy pot out so you guys can have a look at it. And Darlene, impala lily, I'm not 100% sure why they named impala lily. Guessing maybe impala like to eat them. There's also a kudu lily, which has got long spikes on it, but also we're not going to see those here. But I'm not 100% sure why it's called an impala lily. Maybe you guys out there can find why it's called an impala lily, and if you find that information, let me know. Send it through to questions@WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So we had the tracks of that one male lion that marched through the property in the early hours of this morning, and they were found in Torchwood, and it seems like all 5 of them are there to the east of us. And just talking, and this morning we found a very challenging bird out there, a little LBJ. And Janice in Baltimore says, did we manage to identify it? But Janice, what I'm quite comfortable saying now is that it was a melodious lark, and one of the only larks that mimics, because it wasn't the normal call, and those white facial masks, streaky breast. We couldn't quite see whether it had white windows on the tail or the color of its feet because of the glare from the sun behind, but I'm quite confident it was a melodious lark. Not a monotonous one. Believe it or not, there actually is a monotonous lark as well as a melodious one. Warm welcome to a cold place. Steph, who's in Switzerland. Beautiful, but definitely on the chilly side. Although in summer months, Switzerland's very beautiful, especially around Lake Como. Steph is wondering, do we get broad-billed rollers in the Sabi Sands? We do. I've never seen them on Djuma though. I've seen them on the Sand River quite often actually. So about 7 or 8 kilometers to the south of us, I have seen them. Not to say with the right amount of rain we might see them up here, but I don't think this year. It's the very pretty roller species, and it's probably the only roller that occurs in the Sabi Sands that we haven't seen on the live drives. Well, definitely not since I've been here. Maybe some of our long-time viewers might remember if we have seen a broad-billed roller before my time on the live drives, but I can't remember if any of the presenters seeing one since I've been here. So just in case you were wandering around the internet and you managed to bumble upon us, we're on a live African safari on Djuma Private Game Reserve at the moment, and we also are interactive, so you're able to ask us questions and about anything you might like in the African bush, and we'll do our best to answer them. And you can do that by emailing us on questions@WildEarth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So we saw a wonderful little Warburg's eagle on a little bit earlier on the sunset safari, and Miss Jen in the Lone Star State, Texas, is wondering, are Warburgs bigger than bald eagles? no, they're not. Bald eagle is actually a very big bird. I'd probably say almost twice the size of or even 3 times the size of a warbird's eagle. Bald eagle is even bigger than the African fish eagle, although they look quite similar. Their size is massively different, and quite often a lot of people wonder whether an African fish eagle and a bald eagle are related. They're not. There's a very interesting little evolutionary theory about sort of parallel evolution. So bald eagles are also great fish eaters, and not like the fish eagle, but they probably have a shared ancestor with like Stella's sea eagle. But in terms of their coloration and adaptation, they've sort of evolved to look very similar to the African fish eagle, even though there's no relation, and they're very, very far apart in terms of distribution. A parallel evolution, evolving into the exact same sort of features and habits without ever actually being related at all. Well, that's not entirely true. Everything's related, since we all spurned from a single-celled organism by the name of Spirogyra, a blue-green algae. And if you consider survival as the sort of benchmark for a successful species, there's only been one successful species in the history of the Earth, and that is Spirogyra blue-green algae, been around for 4.2 billion years. Isn't that incredible? So we're going to head off and go pick up Neil from Final Control. While we do that, let's go to Djuma and see what she's been up to.
And there we go, for Rich and any others that were interested. This is the nest that I was talking about, the African harrier hawk, or a Djuma, as it used to be known, and still is in my head. I still haven't quite adapted to using the new names, just yet. No sign of life, no chick poking its head out, but we do know that this harrier hawk is still around. I've been looking around trying to check if it's in the area. Maybe, as I said, it's quite skittish, so it might have flown away as we came in, but I didn't see it. Might also be out hunting. But there's a very good chance that we could see one on these live drives. This is what a Djuma looks like, or a harrier hawk. Fascinating double-jointed legs, capable of bending at 90-degree angles backwards, so that it can clasp onto a branch and reach around and dig in animals' nest holes. Beautiful bird. That yellow around the face usually flushes bright red when it gets either stressed or excited. Something fascinating to see. Well, we'll see if we get any juvenile harrier hawks popping out. They should have fledged by now, I would have thought, but I haven't seen any. I noticed with our pale morph Moorburgs that nest there, and this harrier hawk, they don't seem to have been all that successful during this breeding season, unless we've missed it, but I don't think so. We check those nests very regularly. We're now sort of reaching, what are we in? We're at the end of January. I wonder whether this drought has maybe played a role in the way that or the successful rearing of their chicks. I've come along Vulture's nest, not specifically to look for that nest, but actually to look for tracks of this male leopard that was wandering around. It's always a good idea to check the drainage lines of an area. I wondered where he came from and who it was. Just chatting about things we might see, and the socially awkward girl wants to see another spotted animal of ours, but in this particular case, he'd like to see a giraffe. Always possible, you never know. We see them fairly regularly, almost every day. So I'll keep an eye out for you. I promise you, if I find a giraffe, we will show it to you. Apparently the male and the female and the young calf that we've been watching over the last few weeks, male's still with her, still waiting for an opportunity, or waiting his time to manage. He still hasn't, from what I can tell, still hasn't managed to seduce her, but he has been trying very hard. But I promise we'll keep an eye out for you, socially awkward girl. I'm sure we can find you a giraffe. Might even find those three. I'm popping down into this drainage line. We've spoken, our regular viewers know, we've said it repeatedly. The fact that these drainage lines are so productive for finding things like leopards is partly because it provides them with this ideal habitat where they can slink through the bushes. Also provides them with plenty of shade, nice big trees. No, that's kudu tracks, that is not leopard tracks. But it also provides them with an abundance of prey species, because the drainage lines usually, although it's all very quiet this afternoon, but they usually have lots of animals wandering through them. They tend to hold moisture and carry nutrients more. That's why you get those big trees that grow around the drainage line vicinity, and it means that the food provided for the animals is ideal. These leopard tracks haven't come out here. I think one last possibility to check. I'm just going to make sure that he didn't come around down here. Whoa. That was unexpected. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should always be very careful walking around these areas at this time of year. So the dams are empty, and after a little bit of rain, the little pans fill up. That was such a surprise. Shame. I think it was a surprise for that hippo as well. Try and go around the other way, just to go around the other side so I don't spook him further. Get another view of it. That did not look like, for those of you, because I'm sure you're going to ask whether or not that was Peter. It looked like quite a young hippo. I don't think it was him. It didn't look big enough to be him. Any sign of a fur? That was such a surprise. These live drives, they keep you guessing. The bush keeps you guessing. So as I said, the dams are dry, the space is restricted, but with that little bit of rain that we had, it's filled up all of these mud wallows and pans. So when the animals go wandering, particularly hippo at night, they get to the stage where they think, actually, I might just settle down here for the day. Now, if we can't get a view of it from this angle, I'm actually going to leave the area, let it move back in. I don't want it to feel obliged to go wandering around in the blazing hot sun. Now, of course, hippo are highly nocturnal, and their skin is very, very sensitive to the sun. And that's why a lot of them are seriously struggling and suffering at the moment in this drought. And again, this is where it comes down to the fact that pumped dams have, unintentionally caused this particular problem, because it's brought hippos into an area where they wouldn't usually be. And it means that in drought times, where the hippos can cluster in the big rivers and the big pools where they belong, the ones that have now moved into this section of the Sabi Sands are actually struggling. And that's why it was hiding in here. Shame, it's not a very deep resting place. Let me try and get over. There you go. And have a look in there. That's where the hippo was hiding. Now, just have a look at how steep, you can see how much it displaced the mud and the water. Look how steep those sides are. That's where that hippo climbed out. And how fast it moved. That's what I should have asked you. It would have been a really good track quiz. What made those sliding marks along the mud? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I don't think I would have known. Well, I probably would have. I would have been able to see the hippo tracks if I'd checked. What I am going to do is I'm going to call it in on the Game Drive channel. And the reason I'm going to do that is in case anybody goes tracking and wanders about on foot, particularly in this Mulwati drainage line, because a hippo like this in a stressed out situation doesn't feel very comfortable, immediately ran from the vehicle, is actually fairly dangerous. So I do just want to let the other guides know. Stations, there's one in Vubu around Spaghetti Junction in one of the pans. It's just run down towards the Mulwati drainage line, just to let you know. There we go. so that nobody gets a surprise. That's affirmative. So Craig just sent me, sorry, I will explain to you while I'm chuckling. Craig, sorry, he's still talking to me. We're chuckling about it. Yeah, so basically Craig is having a good chuckle because he understands what it's like to be surprised by a hippo and the warning that I was giving. So he's essentially saying to me, did you get a bit of a fright? In a slightly, he didn't quite phrase it that way, but he did phrase it in a very amusing way, one which I'm going to keep to myself, but suffice to say it was rather funny. Let's go down here, let's see if this hippo's popped out here. There's nothing like a surprise hippo, particularly, and I think Craig thought that I was on foot when I'd seen it. We all know those moments. Who's watching in Florida, you were just saying that you love the fact that you can go out daily with us, and you really enjoy it, and you were wondering if there's specific hotels or accommodation that you could stay in. You're saying it looks like an ideal honeymoon destination. And David, yes, we live at Voyatella on Djuma. We live next to Voyatella Lodge. There's also Galago Lodge. One is self-catering, one is not, and they will take you on regular game drives out and about. And of course there's also Arathusa Lodge if you want to mix things up, maybe spend a few days at one and then the other. Now the awesome thing about it is if you do come to stay either at Voyatella or at Galago, you'll actually be able to explore areas that we don't necessarily get to go and visit. So the Djuma guests get an extra level of experience. They can go into Buffelshoek and Torchwood, all around there. And you'll get to see the characters that we've spoken so often about. So to see a Karula in the flesh, or Tingana or Mvula in the Umkuhuma Pride. You'll notice I'm going very slowly and very carefully, just to make sure I don't surprise that hippo again, as I did the first time, as much as it surprised me. I doubt it would have crossed this drainage line, but I'm checking for tracks as well. Probably on its way back to the pan already. Shame. Now generally hippos, when they're in the water like that, I must finish chatting to David first. David, if you have the opportunity, I would strongly advise it. And of course, if you do come up to Voyatella or to stay at Galago, you will be able to come and meet us, come and see a little bit behind the scenes, even watch the setup of a drive if you would like to. We have done that for other fans of our live safaris. Keep your eyes peeled for that hippo, everyone. It's going to be hiding in the bush or in the shade, if it is here. And while I search for our hippo and other wonderful things like the leopard, let's get an update from Brent's side.
So there we go, another one for the bird list, guys. A very pretty bird sitting on top of a Combretum calling, a golden-breasted bunting. Here we go, you can hear him calling. Almost. A little bit more high-pitched. Looking for ladies by the looks of things. So out in a prominent perch, making lots of noise. Come on, call again, please. Or not. So he's very, very vocal. That's how we found him. Bit camera shy now. There we go. Another lovely one for the bird list, for those who are just starting the bird lists. For the avid birders, I'm sure you've got this one before, but it's definitely another one for my live bird list that I'm keeping now. So I'm in competition with all you guys out there on the live drive bird list. Decided it'd be quite fun. See if I can catch up to, I think, who's leading? He's on 225. But who's got the biggest bird list out there? Let me know what your bird list's sitting at, guys. Do that by popping us an email on questions@WildEarthTV or hashtag Safari Live. How big is your Safari Live drive bird list?
Stations are located the other.
So we're hoping there's some eddies up in this area at the moment, so we're going to sort of maneuver around.
Yours
So we had probably, I guess, about 25 or 30 millimeters of rain 2 nights ago, and it has greened up the landscape incredibly in that short time. But if we don't get much more rain, it will dry out very quickly, and the grass will start getting that sort of sunburnt tinge again. But yes, Pat, much greener, well noticed. Hopefully you might even find some wildflowers. Okay, on the edge of that little puddle, that's one of the wonderful things about having a bit of rain around. It makes your butterflies a bit easier to spot down to the right of it. There we go. So let's have a look. I think, yes, you see it's almost a very lime green color. That is an African vagrant, and it's drinking from the moisture surrounding the pan there, and you can actually see a whole host of other bugs flying about. You can't really see what they are, but you see that wonderful sort of very soft lime green, and that's one of the telltale signs of an African vagrant. We can't really see it. It's also got a very distinct black spot on the outside of the wings, but we're a bit far away. I'll see if we can get a bit closer. I just wanted to get a make sure shot from a bit of a distance, and while we move a bit closer, there's 2 African vagrants much closer. We might be able to catch the spot there on them, and they're actually feeding on a pretty little yellow flower. Justicia species, and that one being the Justicia flava, or yellow Justicia. My favorite is the felt Justicia. It was white with purple polka dots, but I haven't seen one yet. So the wildflowers have been a bit few and far between this year due to the lack of rain, but I will be keeping my eyes open for any. While we're in search of increasing the bird lists, Bill Biquette saying, do we have any hummingbirds here? We don't. They are endemic to North and South America. We have sunbirds, which are similarly shaped, but not quite as dainty as a hummingbird, and they do spend more time perched than on the wing. So they often will be feeding on the wing. The most common one we have here is the white-bellied sunbird. As we're wandering past, we'll see the butterflies flutter through, and all of the ones I'm seeing seem to all be feeding on that yellow Justicia that's obviously just come into bloom. Happy butterflies. that up ahead there. So there's just a little open area, and there's just a bunch of those African vagrants all feeding. It almost, you just see them flipping around in little justicia to justicia, and they're all on those yellow justicias. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? I do love butterflies. One of the more challenging creatures to get on camera out here, and that's what makes them so much fun. Oh, quick link to Jamie, who's got quite a rare bird.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've just found the grey-hooded kingfisher that we've been on a mad rush to try and catch. I'm trying to see, the light is so difficult to be able to confirm that, but that definitely looks to me like a grey-hooded kingfisher. Grey-headed kingfisher. Now that's really exciting for those of you building your bird list. It's quite an unusual bird species to see in this area, and I know that many people have been trying to get hold of it to put it on camera, and they've really struggled. It is the grey-headed kingfisher. Awesome. From what I can see. Oh no, hold on. Looking in this light. No, hold on. No, brown-hooded. Damn. I was so excited. It is brown-hooded. It doesn't have a chestnut belly, and I'll show you. It's tricky in this light. Pity. This is the grey-headed that we were after, and that we were getting all excited about. But you can see it's got this brown belly underneath it that we can't see. I can see directly into the sun, but it definitely doesn't have that. So what we're looking at is this little bird, the brown-hooded kingfisher. Also, just as exciting, I suppose, for those of you building up new bird lists. And I know that we've been talking about the bird lists and all the things that we are looking for. So sorry, my mistake. Looking directly into the light, it is a brown-hooded and not a grey-headed. But we will get one. We will get a grey-headed kingfisher on camera. So we encourage all of you to... Kirsty's just said to me from FC, an A for effort. We tried. Got all excited. Next time. Kirsty also says I get a gold star. Thank you, Kirsty. Next time we'll get the grey-headed one. Look at the squirrel. The squirrel just shot through, picked up something from the dung, and ran across the road. Where did you go, little squirrel? And what did you eat? Shy. Playing hard to get. Don't think it's going to come back out again. Quite very common, and we've spoken about this before, for the squirrels to be raiding elephant dung at the moment, which is what this one was doing, after the half-eaten marulas that they leave behind, partially or almost, in some cases, almost completely undigested. At this time of year, we might see it in the next few weeks. You might even start to see baby marulas growing out of elephant dung. Of course, for them, it's absolutely perfect. They've got, once they do germinate, or once the seeds germinate, if they manage to escape the squirrels, the raiding squirrels, if they do germinate, they've got a perfect place to be. Another squirrel doing exactly the same thing. Hello, you. Did you not find a marula fruit? Did you not get lucky? Dashing off. Yes, young marulas germinating in elephant dung. It provides a really nice, basically a fertilized pile in which to start their lives. It's not often that we get to see baby marulas. We usually only see the large ones. The little ones get absolutely hammered by the elephants. Okay. This leopard definitely hasn't crossed along here. So the next step, I think, is to go and check along Vubu Road, see if we can find it there. Who's watching in New Hampshire, and regularly sends us through wonderful questions. Darlene wanted to know, is it because of the leopard and lion concentrations that we don't see cheetah? Because she would absolutely love to see one on a live drive. And Darlene, we have seen cheetah before. We have managed to put them on camera before. It's all about getting lucky. And yes, to an extent, you are absolutely right. Just move out of Taxon's way while I chat about this. Oh, it's Aubrey. So yes, Darlene, we do get cheetah, but you are correct. The high concentrations of leopards and lions in this particular area. Afternoon. How's it? Cheers. Enjoy. So it is partly the high concentration of leopards and lions, but most importantly, first of all, cheetahs require huge, vast areas of space, and secondly, this is not really their favorite habitat. Although they don't necessarily target the grass plains as much as you might think they do, they like slightly more open woodland where they can really get their speed up. There's an individual cheetah that wanders up and down Cheetah Cut Line regularly. The last few weeks we've just been missing out on seeing it. It seems to be because it's summer. It's also moving about earlier in the morning, so it's still in the dark just before we go live. And the other thing with cheetah, of course, is, as I said, they cover huge areas. They like, particularly the females, like to move in vast spaces. The males tend to at least have a little bit more predictability, a little bit slightly more predictable than the females, because they move through to patrol territorial boundaries and to mark along territorial routes. Cheetah are fascinating creatures. It's one of those situations where, and we know that they are endangered, they are quite rare, but it's actually one of those situations where scientists and biologists are actually saying this is a natural progression of a species that actually didn't work. So it hasn't survived, not necessarily just because of mankind's influence in this particular case, although we've had plenty of influence on the decline of other species, but in fact because they need such huge areas. They're highly specialized in terms of the way that they hunt. What do you see? Squirrel alarm calling. I didn't. I was too busy chattering about cheetahs. Well done, Andrew. And after that dwarf mongoose sighting, I will never ignore any alarm call ever again. I'm trying to be able to see it so that we can get an idea of where he's looking. I'm going to switch off so you can hear what a squirrel alarm call sounds like. Not the only one calling either. Keep your eyes peeled, scan the trees with Andrew. See if you can, oh, there we go, there's the reason. Sitting on the dead tree. There we go. And that's what was attracting their attention. Oof, in this light, hard to see. It's not an eagle. Could be a snake eagle without the feathers all the way down to the feet. Try and have a look through my binoculars. Ah, I think it's that juvenile goshawk again. Yes, it's definitely it looks like one of the juveniles. It's got mottled colouring. And we have seen it here before. I can't see its face. I can't see if it's got that red starting to develop around the bill. But that is what the squirrel is shouting at. Sounds like, whenever you listen to squirrel's alarm call, it kind of sounds like a mad witch's cackle. That's what I always imagine when I hear them. They sound like they're laughing. Well done, Andrew. A for effort and success. And while we go and check up on those leopard tracks ended up, let's pop over to Brent and find out what he's been up to.
So we're back. I bumped into Steph and he said there was a sign of elephant around this area, so we've come have a look. We're going to go head down now towards the southern boundary. but it is a wonderful green afternoon. It's almost bright in comparison. And remember, not even a week ago, a lot of these bush willows around us were turning orange already, and a little bit of rain and they started to go green again. So I know a lot of you wonder about Karula, and I haven't heard anything from her. There we go. So the bird list, the person to beat is Mike in Florida, who's on 220. Khada, so Khada's on 132. Speaking of birds, just saw a raptor flying to the top of that tree. I can't see which raptor it is. Oh, there he goes. Oh, come on. Oh, can't see its tail. And Maggie's on 131 birds. Well, you guys are all beating me at the moment. I think I'm on about 20 on the live drive since I started counting. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. So the rule is I have to be able to show them to you. So we have to have them on the camera. And Tom in Dallas, Texas is on 70 species in 51 days. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. You guys are way ahead of me. You know, that very similar call, probably another golden breasted bunting calling. And Brandy in Kansas says she's got a list that she opens up on a computer for every drive, keeps track of which presenter, the date, which cameraman, what we see, and she's on 81 species so far this year. That's very good going, Brandy. Hopefully we're going to be able to add a few more. And definitely, while we have the pea shooter, as Scott likes to call it, which has the powerful super zoom, and boom. So we can focus in on the little LBJs, and sometimes more difficult to see. The Ellies have been here. They've had a good fun play in this little mud wallow here. There's tracks everywhere. So we're in the right neck of the woods to look for elephants. Now where did they go to next is the question. And James Richard says he's on 101, but 102 would be better. I agree with you there, James. Let's see what we can do. Well, I know it's one that most people have, but I don't have it on my live bird list so far. A bird we do see a lot. And it happens to be sitting in one of my favorite trees. And it's a brown ivory tree. And I'm waiting for the fruit to come along, and then I can have some snacks. But there we go, a forked-tailed drongo. One of our more common little birds we see, often hawking around animals, picking up on insects disturbed by all manner of wildlife, even sometimes following our cars to try and catch any insect disturbed by us. A wonderful big brown ivory tree. So look at that, actually, Tibbs. In the fork of that brown ivory tree, it looks like there's a come down right at the lowest fork. Down, 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 down. There we go. It looks like, let's have a look once we zoom in and look at the leaves. Yep, it looks like there's a baby ivory growing in the fork of that ivory. So what often happens in those forks of trees with wind and that, there's dust and dirt that'll build up, and then obviously brown ivory trees are, the fruit is highly sought out by a lot of birds, and they've then gone defecated in that little hollow, and now there's a baby ivory growing there. So we get two species of ivory in the Sabi Sands, the brown ivory and the red ivory. Both are delicious. In Zambia, they make quite a seriously strong moonshine out of brown ivory, enough to put hair on anyone's chest. I've had it once, and once was enough for me. Called Kichaso. Very dangerous stuff. Sometimes said to be brewed with battery acid even. But also on a nicer note, they use lots of preserves, like very nice marmalade and jam can be made. So Eric, who's in Virginia Beach, welcome Eric, would like to know, are there any plants here that sort of are predatory like the Venus flytrap? Not to the same degree. You do have certain flower species, the carrion flowers. I don't have my flower book with me today, but they actually smell like rotting vegetation or rotting flesh, and they bring in flies, and they've got a very sort of viscous fluid that the insects go into, and then they digest them through that fluid. So there is one or two, but not that common. Oh, there we go. Neil, tapping me on the shoulder, has spotted an elephant. So we were definitely in the right zone for some ellies. Where do you want? There we go. There we go. Lovely Eddie. We actually think I've seen him before, but where are the rest of the herd? So if we listen quietly, quite often you can hear the elephants spread out. They do spread out when they're feeding like this, and they can often be 200-300 meters apart. I do love the smell of elephants. You can see how they just walk through that monkey orange, which would literally scratch us to pieces. And she flaps her ears. You can see all the veins behind the ears. And an elephant can have up to about 8 liters of blood between both sets of ears. And it's their air conditioning system which enables them to be active in the heat of the day. And so by flapping their ears, they cool that blood and then pump the cool blood to the rest of the body, and obviously it just keeps flowing through. So you can see her flapping her ears, just cooling. And often people wonder where the ear hole is, and there we can see it. And you can see there's a lot of mud on her from cooling down and spraying. There we go, nice tabs. And obviously it wouldn't make any sense if the hole for the ear was behind. So with it being there, they've got that large radar dish. So not only does it act as the air conditioning system, it acts as a sound collector as well. So it increases their hearing. And elephants communicate quite often in decibels that we can't hear. And for any of our viewers out there who are movie buffs and have watched movies like Predator and Jurassic Park, almost 80 to 90% of all the alien and dinosaur noises in those movies are slowed down elephant sounds. They do have a huge range of vocal capabilities, but I'm just going to move on a little bit to see possibly if there aren't some more. And this ellie unfortunately is on the wrong side of the road, so to speak. I'm hoping there might be some more in a bit more open area on the right side of the road. So, over the last week we had a wonderful time. We had some really monster big Eddie bulls. Oh, what did it have? There's a Wahlberg's eagle just came off the ground and disturbed it. I don't know if it's got a kill here. Let's have a quick look. It landed quite close by, so let's have a look from the other side. Oh no, you know what it is. There we go. So if we look here, I'll try to find exactly where the... Okay, there we go. Okay, so Tibbs, you see that? Okay, Okay, let me just try find on this monitor if we come out. Okay, we got the stick here. Okay, so drop down a little bit. There we go. Okay, zoom in slowly. There we go. Okay, there we go. Right in there. So that little bit of rain has caused the termites to release their alates. So they're drones and the future drones and queens. So if we, oh, there we go. We're going to punch right in there. Look at that. So look at that. There we go. So the ones taking off, the flying ants, are the future kings and queens of the next termite generation. And these are Micromides termites. They don't build those really big termite mounds. Look at that, isn't that fascinating? So now those flying ants that are taking off are almost all protein and really, really tasty. So many different animals in the bush will take advantage of that. Even predatory birds. I've seen leopards eat them. I've seen lions eat them. Hyenas, wild dogs. And there we go. Isn't that incredible? See how they're pushing, struggling to get out, being pushed out by the workers. And we notice that these workers are very, very white in comparison to like a harvester termite, which we see from time to time, which are much darker. They've got sort of dark stripes on them. And the reason for this is that these guys very, very seldom venture out during the daylight. These workers, they get damaged, they get sunburned very easily. But the harvester termites that are active during the day foraging have got that melanin in their skin that enables them to operate during the day. And there we go, isn't that wonderful? Well, let's move on and let the Wahlbergs come back to its feast. And hopefully find some more elephants. So now we're looking at those termites there, and the one book I do have with me, really interesting, is my insect book. And especially after the rain, I knew there were going to be some really interesting insects out. And there's a where is it now? So there's a very specialist type of insect. I'm going to find you a picture of it now, called an African thief ant. And they look very similar to a driver ant, except they are black. And I'm just going to see if I'm going to skid off the main drag, so in case there's other traffic, and then I'm going to grab it for you. So their workers are so tiny, they're barely visible with the human eye. And they are specialists at raiding termites. So an African thief ant will make a nest on the edge of a termite mound. And the workers are so small that they are able to go into the termite mound and carry out termite eggs to feed on without the termites even noticing. They are tiny. And how they disperse like those flying ants we've just seen dispersing is they will actually take off. But the big difference, to start their new colony when they take off, they can have up to 2,000 of these incredibly minute workers on their bodies as they fly off to set up shop at a new termite mound. So I'm just going to stop here. I was hoping there might be something around this little pan, but alas, no such luck. Stop in the shade here. African thief ant. So I'm going to see. I might be able to with this camera show you on the picture those tiny little guys. Let's go into thief ant. No, velvet ants. And it'll be driver ants. Well, there we go, just ants we're going to have to deal with. I should be able to spot them quite quickly. There we go, wasps. No, we don't want wasps. We don't want robber flies. There we go. There we go, how's that? So there's an African thief ant. They're quite big. About 25 millimeters long, the queens, and the drones also quite big. But there we can see, if we zoom in, so these tiny workers, sometimes hundreds and thousands of them, will catch a lift on the adult as they go off to set up their new life. So isn't that incredible? And they only feed off termites. And generally we only see them on the first heavy rains of the summer. So you don't see them that often, and quite often no one really knows what they're looking at. So they just sort of, oh, there goes a big black flying thing that's landed in my dinner. Off you scatter. Meanwhile, you've probably eaten a few hundred little workers if it's landed in your dinner. So unfortunately the majority of those elephant tracks cross out of our traverse zone, but for every track that crosses out, one has to cross in at some point. So we're going to go pop down towards one of my favorite spots on Djuma at the moment, the treehouse waterhole, which is the only natural seep. So after this rain I want to see how full the seep is, and also a great spot to see all the bugs and insects as they come down to collect mud or drink water at that little seep. So I'm going to keep you honest with the birds on the sunset safari, and we will definitely have another bird quiz or two. But while we head down towards the treehouse waterhole, Jamie has got...
Here we go. Now, the tricky track quiz, or as I like to call it, as has suddenly popped into my head, the tricky track test. Haha, try saying that 5 times fast. What made these? I'm gonna let you guys guess, but I'm gonna hop out because you can't see them from above as clearly as I can. So I'm just gonna hop out and show you exactly what it is that we're looking at. I need a track stick. Here's a good track stick. Here's a good track stick. So, looking down at these, you see these ones clearly, Andrew?
Yeah, boy.
They don't get my shadow in the way. I'm going to tell you a couple of things, and for regular viewers, regular viewers, this might actually give it away. The back pad of this little paw print is asymmetrical, right? So that's your first big clue. These little things here are the toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks slightly bigger because it's actually imprinted when the sand was wet, and there are claws that extend out. Now there's a couple of options, but there's one that I want. There's only one answer I will accept. That is the correct one. And look at the stride. Look at the distance here from this track to the start of the next track. That's roughly how long that body is. What could it be? What could it be? And it's important. Why is stuff like this important? Why is looking at little tracks like this, a little animal that we're never going to manage to track, we won't be able to follow it, these are oldish tracks. Why is it important to know what track you're looking at for little creatures? And the answer to that, or one of the big answers to that, apart from just interest in the way that they are and the way that they operate, is the fact that we know about their behavior. So, if for example, this were a nocturnal creature, tracks crossed over a set of leopard tracks, you immediately have not a perfect aging device, but at least a substantial one in terms of figuring out how old the animal is that you are trying to track. So that's one of them. Also just sheer fascination, which animal it is, how it walks, how long its strides it takes. Always interesting to follow up on the different tracks. Let's see if you can guess this one. I think I have asked this before, I'm not sure, but new viewers, it might even be, oh no, I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it because it will give it away. I want to see if you can guess what it might be. Sorry. Leopards calling around Twin Dams, where we were a bit earlier. I know Brent's making his way there as well. Or it sounds like Brent's making his way there. I'm going to stick around close to the area just in case, but I'm not going to go in because there's 3 vehicles already moving around close to that spot. And perhaps, I'm not sure if Brent heard my update about the hippo wandering in that drainage line, but perhaps FC, if you could kindly just pass that message on to him again, that'd be great. Awesome, thank you very much, Kirsty. Kirsty's on it. She's organized. That's where our leopard's gone. We were looking in the right place. It just tricked us. Mysteriously, somehow managed to get past us. Oh, that's so one of those frustrating things. If we'd been there 2 seconds, or no, that's not true, about 15 minutes later, we would have heard those calls. But this is good news. It means we've got a chance. Unfortunately, we're not going to have a chance to see the warthog I was trying to show you, except for disappearing little tails and bottoms. Well done, Andrew. Luckily, our cameramen are always on point when it comes to warthogs because we know that generally they tend to run away. That's what makes those long warthog sightings that we've been having recently so special. Hey Mbala, where's that leopard? So close and yet so far. The socially awkward girl wanted, and I'm not being horrible, that is her username, she wanted me to show her a giraffe. And Amur, who is watching in Miss Rosie's class, you were wondering how tall a giraffe can get. And the answer is easily up to 5 or so meters, the tallest male. And to put that into feet, is about 15 feet at the top of its head. So very tall, obviously the tallest land animal that we have in the world, and an extraordinary thing to look at. I don't know, I always find that giraffes start looking a little bit odd. If you stare at them for too long, you're suddenly so aware of what strange creatures they are. I'm just going to be quiet for a little moment, just while we go through a bad signal patch. Seems to be okay though. Well done, Jigga. Sticks flying everywhere, leopard chase is on, the excitement's building. Are we going to find this leopard and who is it? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my way south all the way and see if we can't work our way upwards. We're racing to see one of everybody's favorite animals, the incredibly we're doing a Ferrari safari to try and escape the sudden attack of the gremlins, the bad signal patch on the road. Brent disappeared, I disappeared. It was just a brief moment of both of us vanishing, but luckily we're back up and running, thank goodness. And we seem to be stable again. Sorry about that, but it is one of those things, because we are live, we just know occasionally that it is going to happen. There are occasional signal black holes on the reserve, and we can't always avoid them, especially when we're racing to try and help follow up to find an animal. So forgive us for the minor technical disruption that just attacked us. Now before that happened, I was in the middle of talking about Declan's question, and Declan, you wanted to know what my favorite cat is. It's a really hard one. Leopards, of course, are always extraordinary to see. Cheetah, especially because we hardly ever see them, is always an exciting moment. They tend to hang out around Muffleshoek and Torchwood. But I think if I had to choose, and I'm assuming you mean from this area that we could see, and not one of the other cats of the world, because there's some incredibly attractive cats. There's the snow leopard and the ocelots and the clouded leopards of the world, which are all so beautiful and fascinating. But for this area, I think my favorite would be a serval. A serval is a medium-sized cat. It looks a little bit like somebody shrunk a cheetah. And it's got incredibly powerful limbs, capable of springing up and catching birds in midair. While we race to make our way towards the area that leopard was heard calling in, let's pop over to Brent, who actually has a warthog to show you.
Okay, copy.
There we go. One of the cutest little creatures out here off their jog. And also one of the tastiest, if you ask the leopard. So we just got a report that there was a leopard calling somewhere in this area. So Scotty's out tracking, and we've come into this area. So we're just going to sit here and listen for a second. And it's unusual for a leopard to call at this time of the day, normally closer to sunset. But if a female is in the mood for love, they can be very vocal. And female leopards will often actually move well out of their territory to mate, even 2-3 territories over. And what they do is they mate with any possible male whom they might come across with their cubs, and basically trying to convince everyone that they're the daddy. So not only are we listening for that distinct that rasping call of a leopard, we're also listening to see if a squirrel or a monkey or a kudu or nyala have spotted them for alarm calls. So always important, and quite often in the bush your ears will find your animals long before your eyes do. Anyway, let's carry on. And we're on Leadwood Road, and it takes its name from this large dead leadwood tree. Isn't that spectacular? And they can often stay standing for well over 100 years after they've died. They are very termite resistant, so the termites can't eat that wood. So this is the area where we have been seeing quarantine at Djuma occasionally, so fingers crossed. So one of our favorite regular viewers, hello Gracie, for those who don't know, Gracie's 8 years old, and she's only got 19 birds, and she says, I only watch the morning safaris because I'm asleep for the other one. Is that okay? Gracie, I think there are very few 8-year-olds who've got a list of 19 birds, so I think you're winning there, Gracie. Well done to you. Keep watching, and I'll try and find your favorite bird, your cinnamon-breasted or cinnamon bun bird, or a cinnamon-breasted bunting. We will have a look for that. I know that's your favorite bird. And Gracie, maybe we've got another bird for your list. Not right now. I'm going to try see if we can spot it. It's definitely a new one for my live safari list. There he is. There's two of them there. They're often in pairs, and they're very, very mobile. So sometimes quite difficult to get on the camera. You've got him there. It's usually flown already. There it goes. Ooh. Disappearing. Alright, well, I guess you'll try to find it again for you there, but it was a southern black tit, and they make lots of very noisy little birds. But the noisiest bird in the bush, I heard one calling now. Oh, and there's a very nice bird for a lot of you. Let me just get forward. I'm sure this will add to quite a few people's lists. Okay, so there we go. To the left-hand tree, left, and just jump to the right. Come to the right. Okay, zoom. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. That's a beautiful little bird. There we go. Nice work, Tebs. and that is a common scimitar bull. And when you can see it's, oh, he's got something, a very distinct shaped beak that enables him to probe into holes and in between the tree and the bark. Oh, popped down. Oh, there we go, a common scimitar bull. Very, very cool little bird. And he's now disappeared into that thicket, but Tebbs is on it. There you go, coming back up. And you can see that scimitar-shaped bill. So they're able to insert that into little holes and actually into little gaps in the bark and get different bugs and things out of there to feed on. So, Gracie, I hope that's number 19 for you. Common scimitar bull. And there's the others that I was trying to show earlier too. If we go straight into that there. There we go. There it is. There's the southern black tit. Whoop. And so they're quite busy little birds, often hopping around, which makes them one of the more challenging ones to get on camera. And you hear them more often than you get a good view of them. And you see completely black with the white wings. Yep, busy little guys. So stopping and having a look at the birds also gives us a chance to listen. And again, listening in case there's an alarm call and there's a leopard around. So there we go, Gracie. I think that should be 20. So Scotty is trying to get hold of me. Scott.
Brent, to update you, I spoke with Peter, and he was around the concrete crossing on Central when he heard the animal calling down in the Milwaukee. I'm gonna just walk upstream from Spaghetti Junction.
Alright, copy. I'll do Leadwood and then I'll do Mumbai.
Copy, and it sounds like it should be further upstream from there, from this update. That's perfect.
Copy, thanks, Scotty. So, Scotty Too Hotty is on the track. And he's going to go have a walk in that little riverbed, the Milwaukee, see if we can find any of those leopard tracks. So, fingers crossed, guys. So this is one of my favorite roads on Djuma, and because it doesn't get driven sometimes as often as the other roads, and there's this wonderful myriad of drainage systems that are great to walk through. And when I have done some of the live walks, this is my sort of favorite area to walk to. It's my go-to area in and around these drainage systems. So a common one, but I know a firm favorite with the viewers. Please sit for long enough. One of the more beautiful birds with that sort of electric blue coloration. A little bit to the right, I think. No, where's he gone? Oh, I've lost sight of him. There we go. Woodlands kingfisher. So an insectivorous kingfisher. So Peter, who's in Belito on the KwaZulu-Natal north coast, was wondering if we still see woodlands. There we go. There are actually a few more around than there were in the last couple of weeks. So I know a lot of our regular viewers will know the answer to this, but let's just see if you've been listening to what I've been saying. And the Latin name for woodlands kingfisher is a Halicin senegalensis. Senegalensis, it was probably first described from the area around the Senegal River. But the Halicin part is actually an old Italian word. And who can remember how and why kingfishers of this nature have got that start to their Latin name, Halicin, and it's a lovely old, quite an old English term about Halicin days. Let's see if you can work it out from that. And remember, send your answers through via email to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Oh, fluff. Wonderful electric blue. And actually quite ferocious predators if you happen to be a frog or bug. And spend a lot of time perched just like that, watching for any movement on the ground or around them. But let's continue to look for a kitty cat.